then what's next is this next law that I love to talk about, which is the law of wisdom. Now, we're talking about when we say the law of wisdom, the law of conversion, the law of change, what we're talking about is what I call the laws of wealth, right? Some of those laws are going to apply to the first X specifically. Sometimes they can bleed over into the second one, as it were, as they apply. But most of the time, so like the law of change would apply. You obviously have to change even at the second X, but to get you started, you must apply the law of change. Then these other laws that I'm going to share with you at the second X are important. So you understand this is how God gives you the power to get wealth. Then when we move to the third X, which is a big X, when we move there's some laws of wealth that allow you to be able to function and in what I call that tekiolum, that partnering with God in the earth in establishing the kingdom of God. So Proverbs chapter 24 on the law of wisdom says, through skillful and godly wisdom is a house built. And this is in the amplified version of the Bible. And it says, is a house, a life, a home, a family built. And by understanding it's established on a sound and good foundation. And by knowledge shall its chambers of every area be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Now the good news is some of you have actually heard me talk about the law of wisdom. This is one of my favorite laws to talk about because I think it's one of the laws that's the most misunderstood. And when I say that, you'd say, well, how could wisdom be misunderstood? It's because of how people think about wisdom, and I'll explain that to you. Proverbs 24 in another version says this, Living Bible version says, any enterprise is built by wise planning, becomes strong through common sense, and profits wonderfully by keeping abreast of the facts. So the real truth is, in this verse, Proverbs 24, there are three primary categories that are listed. The first is knowledge, the second is understanding, and the third is wisdom. So when we think about knowledge, I want us to understand this, that the beginning, watch this, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. When we understand that, what most people misunderstand is they disassociate the idea of having wisdom from the idea of exercising yourself to have and obtain knowledge. Let me say it to you one more time. Most people, when they think of wisdom in the Bible, they disassociate the concept of wisdom. They disassociate the concept of wisdom from the importance in their life of gaining knowledge. In other words, they think wisdom just happens. But wisdom, there is a foundation that must come in our life of knowledge in order for wisdom to happen. So I like to say it this way, never let it be said that you didn't find out. So this is why I told you a couple of sessions ago that a poor person ought to take a rich person out and buy a 6-course meal and pay for the dinner. And the reason you do that is because you may find out some things you didn't find out, right? You may discover some things that you didn't find out. So it's important that you understand that. Hosea 4 and verse 6 says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Now I want to tell you this because this just happened for me. And I see people make this mistake all the time. I make it, and I have made it plenty of times in my life, so believe me, I can't stand up here and look down my nose at anybody regarding this illustration I'm about to give. I have lived this. But I have made the mistake many times in my life when it comes to me moving forward, and is that I have done this. And I like to say it this way, don't just ask what something costs, ask how much it's worth. So what I do is I ask how much something costs sometimes instead of asking how much it's worth. Just recently, now we're recording this in February of 2015, but just recently I bought a particular product that I paid several $1,000s for that came to teach me something in a very specific business area that I was not familiar with, and it's primarily, I'll just be transparent and honest with you what it was. It was in the area of internet marketing. Okay? I want to tell you, I paid for that product, and when I paid for that product, I felt good about it because I felt like I was supposed to do it, and I just don't run out and do those kind of things very often, but I felt like I was supposed to, and I applied what I learned, and it's not gimmick stuff, it's how you do something properly on the internet, and I applied it, and I made, without any embellishment, 10 times back what I paid for the program within 2 weeks' time of applying the principles. Easily. Now, the reason I share this with you is that I could have asked, well, look how much that cost. But all of a sudden, it became worth a lot. Now, I'm not suggesting you go and just flippantly, throw money at a wall and see if it sticks. What I am suggesting is that we understand how we're going to apply truths that come to our life, information and knowledge. So I say to John, John, I found the gold mine. You can dig up all you want. I say, John, go get you a shovel. And John says, do you know how much they want for shovels? In other words, the idea is sometimes we think wrong we're talking about moving to the second X. And we're talking about the law of wisdom. And wisdom, the foundation of wisdom, watch this now, you cannot disassociate the idea of wisdom from the foundation of gaining knowledge.